Well, the first thing to say, I think, is that it's a landmark day, and that if you'd have told a lot of the cooks who you're now talking about a year ago that we would be here today actually looking at the beginning of a Brexit process, many people wouldn't have believed you. But as you say, it's the beginning of a 2-year process now, and there's going to be a lot of parties involved. There's a number of institutions here in Brussels. You've got the Commission, we're standing in front of their building, the Council over there, and the European Parliament, and each of them will have a role to play. And what's going to happen is that after the announcement by Theresa May, we'll see a response from Donald Tusk, an initial response, and then in the next month they will work the various institutions to come up with the guidelines that Michel Barnier, who's going to be the chief negotiator for the Commission, in order for him to negotiate. But another key point to make is that while there's a 2-year period for these negotiations, in actual fact they're going to be considerably shorter, because we don't expect to have clarity on the negotiating positions until the summer, and then ratification of the agreement will have to start in about October of next year in order to be ready on time. So it's a very compressed timeline, and you've got all of these institutions, and on top of that the 27 remaining member states who all have their own slightly differing interests. So it'll be a challenge.
That's the timeline. What about the actual negotiating positions? How far apart are the various parties at this stage, do you think?
Well, so the official line is, of course, that they are very much speaking in one voice, and that they're trying to achieve the same thing. And the aim, as stated actually by the UK and the EU, is to achieve a mutually beneficial post-Brexit relationship. But there are very differing aims, and the various member states have to take account of differing national interests. We've got elections in France, actually, either side of the summit on the 29th of April. We'll have a new president on the 7th of May. Depending on who that is, the attitude to the EU could be very different. We've got elections in Germany, so Germany, which is usually very pro-European and which had indicated that it would be looking for an amicable settlement. We're seeing some tougher language coming out of Berlin, also because there are elections coming up. So, you look at the Netherlands, who are traditionally pragmatic. The Nordics, I think, are looking to be pragmatic, but very differing views on different issues. Speaking with one voice is going to be tough.
Essentially, though, you mentioned the official line, but that implies, of course, there's going to be unofficial lines. How important is messaging going to be during these negotiations?
I think messaging is very important. One key point I think to make is that the EU have stated, Michel Barnier in particular, that they intend to be very transparent up front in terms of how they want to handle these negotiations. The UK, on the other hand, have indicated that they intend to hold their cards a little tighter to their chest. In terms of the messaging, I think you'll see some quite strong language. Theresa May, of course, has her Tory, the sort of the hard Brexit Tories and the press to deal with, who are putting a lot of pressure on her. But ultimately, while we see some very tough messaging, I think they both will want to get a deal done, because if we reach the end of the 2-year period without a deal, it's bad for everyone.